Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things, and on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. We're going to be talking about the worst morning in the history of humanity that I experienced recently. It involves boiling, scalding water, excruciating pain, all sorts of troubles, so stay tuned for that story of woe. We need to talk a little bit about the Seahawks and how way too many NFL analysts are jumping on the Seahawks bandwagon now. And then I want to do a fruit fly update. Ugh, these little creeps, we're going to talk about them a little bit more. We'll get into your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings. And then at the very end, we will do our Patreon shoutouts and updates. So please stay tuned. Many good things coming up. Excellent. Okay, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon? Well, this coming week, we will have the review of... I should have this. Why don't I have this? Hold on. The review of this. My Homage X-Starter Seahawks heavyweight satin jacket. This thing is a beauty. I absolutely love it. It is very reminiscent of the 80s and 90s starter jackets from back in the day. It actually is a starter jacket, but it's a special edition in partnership with Homage or Homage, and it's fantastic. We'll be reviewing this coming up this week. You'll see it early on Patreon on Monday, but if you're a YouTube viewer, you can see it on Wednesday. The week after that, we will have our revisited episode for MacBaron HH Bold Kentucky. Sort of a wake for this blend, kind of a memorial service, the fact that you aren't going to be able to get it anymore. And it's one that I actually really enjoyed when I revisited it. So stay tuned for that. And then the week after that, I'm going to be doing a little review on this flash unit, the SUNPAK AUTO 101 that I've been using on my Leica M4. A great compact flash that has some auto capabilities, but then also has a PC sync cable. So you can plug it in to very old vintage cameras like my Leica M4 that do not have hot shoes. They just have a cold accessory shoe. So lots of good stuff coming up. Please stay tuned. I'm enjoying this delicious thermos full of coffee right now, but coffee can have negatives associated with it as well. On Tuesday morning, I was making my coffee. I get up at around 5:30 in the morning and I put on the coffee. And I used a French press like this. I had just boiled a pot of water in my electric kettle. And I had just poured that scalding, boiling water into a French press, very much like this. It was also filled with 3 scoops of coffee that I had ground in my coffee grinder. Coffee in the bottom, boiling, scalding water on the top. I had placed the lid on like this, and I placed it down on the counter. I was wearing socks, very much like these. These are darn tough wool work socks. As I turned to leave the counter and start preparing my breakfast and lunch and all the other things that I needed to do for my workday, my hand caught the top of this French press mechanism, tumbling the French press off of the counter. The French press struck the ground in the kitchen, shattered into 1,000 pieces. And the scalding, burning hot, boiling water and coffee grounds splattered all over my feet. Now, as I mentioned, I was wearing socks like this. And because of that, the water, the boiling, scalding water, soaked in to my socks, which kept the boiling, scalding water pressed against the flesh of my feet. I experienced a great deal of pain. Because it happened so quickly, because it was rather shocking, I obviously wasn't expecting to have scalding hot water inundate my feet and soak my socks. It took me a moment to get over that initial shock, the pain, and to strip the socks off of my feet, dripping with coffee and coffee grounds. Smoking, actually. They were steaming because the water was so hot. As I mentioned, I felt an intense pain. I did not know how bad it was going to be initially. I just knew that, yeah, it really hurt. But I also had the issue of the extremely ridiculous mess in my kitchen. It spread all over. There was broken glass, boiling water, coffee grounds everywhere. I had to get ready for work, and I started limping around trying to clean up this ridiculous mess, and it was utter devastation in my kitchen. In the meantime, my feet were not feeling good. They were hurting quite a bit, and so finally, when I didn't think I was going to be tracking coffee everywhere, when I had been able to kind of mop them up a little bit, I tried to go into the bathroom and run them under some cool water for a while. Basically, what ended up happening is that my feet were scalded pretty badly. Second-degree burns over the top of my left foot and kind of on the side and bottom of my right foot. Initially, they were just bright red and inflamed looking. So I thought, I'm gonna still try to go to work. I cleaned up the mess as best as I could, and then very slowly and carefully tried to put some socks on. It reminded me of John J. Dunbar, Kevin Costner from Dances with Wolves, when he thinks his foot is going to have to be amputated, but he still pulls his boot onto the disgusting skinned foot. It felt kind of like that, maybe not quite as extreme. Drove to work. I was actually picking up materials at my dad's place, and I realized very quickly as I was hobbling around and excruciating pain was shooting through my feet, yeah, it's probably not gonna happen today. And so my dad had some like burn cream and some gauze and stuff, so I wrapped my feet in that and I went home. Several hours after the incident had first occurred, I took a look at my feet and the blistering was extreme, I would say. Quite pronounced. I realized that I was going to have to go to work the next day. We're just too busy for me to miss several days of work. And so I did lance the largest of the blisters because I couldn't even put a shoe on because they were so big and crazy. I know you're not supposed to do that with a burn. You're supposed to leave the blister there and let the skin heal underneath, but it wasn't really an option for me. I did end up going to work the next day, and it actually wasn't that bad, really. It hurt, it was uncomfortable, but I was able to hobble around. The problem now is that the blistered skin has sloughed off of the wound on my right foot in particular, and now it is quite irritating and quite painful. Let me show you some pictures. Do you want to see something gross? I find this whole process rather fascinating. So, I have on my phone, and I will put them up on screen here, several photographs. First of all, we have the initial burning. So this is when my feet had just been scalded. This was probably, I don't know, 10 or 20 minutes after it had initially happened. It looks red, it looks inflamed. Doesn't look that crazy. I will say that, yeah, the pain was pretty bad. But next, you will see after, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, what my feet looked like. Ugh. So, rather extensive blistering. It's hard to even make it out completely in this photograph, but yeah, quite a bit of blistering. And that was about 4 hours after the initial incident. And now it's been, I guess, 4 days. And this is what the injuries look like now. So you can see, especially on the left foot, I have lost some of the skin and it is very raw, but not that bad, really. I'm actually kind of shocked by how much, well, I mean, it hurt a lot initially, but these are, you know, second-degree burns from boiling water. I expected it to actually be much worse. And I guess I'm also just kind of used to putting up with discomfort. So I worked for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday after this happened. And it was painful and it was uncomfortable, but I did it. It was fine. And I'm hoping that now over the weekend I can rest my feet. Do I have any other pictures in here? I don't think so. I think I can rest my feet and hopefully they can heal a little bit. I'd like the skin to sort of scab up over the areas that have lost skin. I've got some gauze pads and some wraps and things that I can try to prevent things from rubbing on them. But yeah, that was one of the worst mornings I've ever had in my entire life. And it was all because I wanted a cup of coffee. Coffee. Okay, now briefly, we do have to discuss this. It is the NFL season. I've been watching a little bit of football. I don't watch a ton. Everyone is like, oh, I hate sports, I hate football, blah, blah, blah. How could you be into sports? It's not everyone. A lot of people like sports, so I'm being hyperbolic here. But I don't really watch any sports other than football. And with football, I don't really watch much other than the Seahawks. I will watch highlights of other teams and other games, but it's mostly just the Seahawks. That's mostly what I'm into. And I just want to briefly point out, the Seahawks are now 3-1. They've had some really good performances. They barely beat the Cardinals last week on Thursday Night Football. Before the season, so many NFL analysts were predicting that the Seahawks would be the worst in their division, in the NFC West. And I thought that was insane because last year they went 10-7. They had the same record as the Los Angeles Rams, who won the division. The only reason the Seahawks didn't win the division is because of tiebreakers and strength of schedule and all that other stuff. But they had a 10-7 record. That was Mike Macdonald's first year as head coach. He had just been instituting his defensive plan. His defense had been doing quite well by the end of the season. Fruit fly. There was no reason to assume that they would be doing any worse this season. They had added some good pieces. Yes, they had traded away Geno Smith, but what a lot of fruit flies, a lot of people don't seem to realize in the national media is that Geno Smith is one of the most interception-prone quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he is this year. I think a lot of people in Seattle were already thinking, Geno Smith is not going to be the long-term solution here. So I was quite pleased to get Sam Darnold. I thought he would actually be an upgrade on Geno Smith. We traded away DK Metcalf, yes, but then we have Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith-Njigba. We had Ken Walker as a running back, Zach Charbonnet. We had a lot of good pieces on offense. I had no reason to believe that the offense would be any worse than last year. I thought it would actually be a bit better, and I thought the defense would also keep improving and keep growing. So I saw no reason to think that the Seahawks would be the last in the NFC West, the last team in the NFC West. I thought there was a very good chance they could win the NFC West. But all these analysts, before the season started and the power rankings and stuff, were listing them at like number 20, number 25. They were saying that they were going to lose. They were going to be the worst team in the NFC West. Like, okay, fine, you're all foolish, but whatever. But now, after 4 games, suddenly everyone is ranking them in the top 10 in the NFL power rankings. People are predicting them winning the NFC West. Just everybody slow down a little bit, calm down. Why is everyone so easily swayed by whatever just happened yesterday? Let's just all go easy. I wanted the Seahawks to go under the radar a little bit this year. I didn't want people to start jumping over their skis just because they had a few good games. There have been 4 games played this year. They have to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. I think they have every chance of winning that game, but I'm not going to say for sure that they definitely will. I think they will continue to be good. I think the defense will continue to improve if people can stay healthy. I think Sam Darnold is doing great at quarterback, but let's all slow down a little bit. Let's not all start predicting them. I listened to Heed the Call podcast. It's the NFL podcast I listen to. And now Mark Sessler, who curses every team that he gets behind, has now predicted that the Seahawks will win. He picked the Seahawks over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as his lock of the week. Stop it. Stop doing these things. Just leave them alone. Let them do their thing. Calm down. We don't need to start predicting them for the Super Bowl after 4 games. Okay? You were wrong when you were saying that they were going to be the worst team in the NFC West, but now you are getting a little too crazy predicting that they're going to the Super Bowl or they're going to be in the NFC title game. Just moderate a little bit. Go easy, man. Oh. So you saw me trying to clap a fruit fly recently. I've talked about this in the past, the fruit fly struggles that I've had, and I just want to give a brief update on this because maybe it will help some of you out as well. Brief recap. I think this was even last year. I was talking about fruit flies in my apartment and how angry it makes me because I am extremely clean. I don't leave any food anywhere outside, on the table, on the counter, in cupboards. Everything is wrapped, everything is in the fridge. I don't leave any fruit out. If I do have fruit out that I'm trying to ripen, I will wrap it in a plastic bag so it's not exposed to the air. I put my garbage out very often. I don't let it just sit there festering in the garbage can. I clean my drains with boiling water all the time. So I was getting these fruit flies and I couldn't figure out where the hell they were coming from. And some people were saying, oh, they're actually drain flies. They're coming from your drains. And they're not, they're fruit flies. They're red-eye fruit flies. But I was cleaning my drains. I was taking out the U-bends in the drains, checking all that. I just couldn't find any reason or any way these fruit flies were propagating in my house. There's nothing for them to eat in here. But it kind of died down last winter. It was definitely worse in late summer into fall. This year has been even worse. I just keep getting more and more and more. I bought one of those blue light traps that have the sticky backing, the blue light that you plug into an outlet. It lures them in and then they get stuck to the sticky backing. I will have dozens of them on there after one night. I don't know where they're coming from. I have a vacuum out all the time. I'm just sucking them up whenever I see them. So this year, it's like, okay, I cannot stand this anymore. I have to figure out what's going on. So I went insane. I did the boiling water down the drain a bunch of times. I can't even remember what it's called, but some sort of like bio drain cleaner in the bathroom and the kitchen multiple times. Took apart all the pipes, looked in there. Went through all the different cupboards thinking, is something leaking? Is there like a wet rag or something gross under anywhere? There shouldn't be because I'm very clean. There wasn't. I pulled the fridge out to see if it was leaking and there was anything going on there. Nothing. Nothing behind the stove. Nothing under the stove. Nothing anywhere. I cleaned everything excessively. I couldn't understand why these fruit flies were coming into the house or where they were coming from, where they were propagating. There was nothing in the apartment for them to eat. No reason for them to be here. So I was going insane. I just couldn't figure it out. They just kept coming. It seems like I would kill, and they would just keep showing up. Finally, yesterday, I noticed something. So it's not very warm anymore, so I don't really need the air conditioning on. But even when it was hot, I would usually turn the air conditioning off at night or sometimes during the day, or definitely during the day when I wasn't home, and I would open the window. The window has a screen on it, a bug screen, a screen that bugs shouldn't be able to fit through. But the other day, I think I had killed a bunch of fruit flies. I had changed the trap in that little blue light thing, and I wasn't noticing too many flying around. And I thought, oh, maybe I finally got a handle on it. Then I left for the day, and I had opened the window, and when I came back, the place was filled with them again. And I finally put two and two together. I went to the window in the living room and looked on the screen, and there were dozens. And I can only assume that they are getting through the window screen. I don't know why. I live on the 3rd floor. I don't know why they would be flying up to that window screen and trying to get into my apartment. I have no idea why that would happen unless somebody who lives near me is just like, they're just flies surrounding their apartments and they're just around. But that's the only thing I could think of. I even like put tape over my drains at night to see if any of them were like trying to come up the drains and get stuck. I put tape over the vents in my unit to see if any of them were trying to come through the vents. Nothing at all. The only solution I can find is that they were coming through the window. So basically during the fall when fruit flies are prevalent, I'm just going to have to keep my window closed all the time, and I'm going to try that. It's been 24 hours now, and I have noticed there are far fewer fruit flies than there were before I closed the window and went on a killing spree. So I'll keep you posted here, but even if you have a window screen, it might not be keeping fruit flies out. And if you, like me, have gone crazy trying to figure out where those fruit flies are coming from, they might be shoving their stupid little faces through your window screen. And you may just have to keep all your windows and doors closed all the time. So I'll let you know. It's funny because I'm almost like talking to them now. I get home, I'm like, I'm home, and there's little clouds of fruit flies around, and then I go into this rage and start vacuuming them up and smacking them and just going absolutely bananas. I hate them. I hate them. Okay, gang. But now it is time for hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, but you shouldn't because nobody does, and I never read Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now. But if you are a Patreon supporter, you can go to Patreon and write to me via Patreon. Go right to the front of the line. You can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line. Or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback on the comment section of my YouTube videos, just like at Michael Case did on last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. So I was talking about shooting film in the winter here when things get very dark and very overcast, and talking about whether or not I was going to try experimenting with pushing film when I develop. Michael Case said, you can push Tri-X one stop because of its good latitude. Most modern films have good extra latitude. I've heard some people say they push Tri-X 3 stops easily. I'm sure it's going to get kind of gritty if you do that. I've seen exposure calculators from the 40s to 60s that take into account latitude, time of day, time of year, altitude, etc., to allow you to get good exposures without a meter. I think you are using your Leica because you are trying to get your money's worth. Haha, just joking. Yeah, my exposures have been great. Not to pat myself on the head or anything, but I think I've really got my head around exposures. It's just, you know, when it is super, super dark and I should be shooting at like f1.4 and my aperture only goes to f2, then yeah, I might want to be doing higher speed films, or at least shooting my films at one or two stops over the film speed or the box speed. And then I'm using my Leica just because I love it. It's fantastic and I like using it. It's a joy to use. Next we have at Quantum Taurus, who says, or Tarsus, who says 100% push film in the winter as needed, at least if shooting black and white. Consider the fact that Delta 3200 is really an ISO 1000 film, I have heard that, whose development is pushed to 3200 by default. So basically, they're just telling you, oh, when you're developing this film, you develop it for this long, but that basically means you're pushing the film several stops when it's actually a 1000 speed film. So yeah, I've heard a lot of people who shoot Delta 3200 at ISO 1000 to get less grain. Anyway, interesting. T-Max 3200 is nominally an ISO 800 film and pushed similarly in development by default. You're going to be pushing regardless. In my experience, I do think that HP5 is probably a bit better at pushing 2+ stops solely because it handles the contrast a bit better versus Tri-X. I found the exact opposite. I didn't like how HP5 looked when I pushed it. But again, that's only a couple times that I tried it, and that was pretty early on, and I wasn't developing it myself. So yeah, we'll see. I am going to try some T-Max. I'm going to try to push a couple rolls of that to see how that goes. Your mileage may vary, of course, depending on development methods, which probably matters as much as the film does, if not more. Yeah, definitely. And since I'm going to be developing this time, when I tried to push that HP5 before, I was sending it away to develop, and I develop all my own film now, so that's probably going to make a difference. Next, we have at Ortsilanda answering the question I asked of which MacBaron blend are you going to miss the most. Ortsilanda says, I discovered Bold Kentucky a couple of months before the acquisition of MacBaron by STG, looking for a replacement for Irish Flake, which is discontinued in Europe. I like Bold Kentucky very much, but now, sadly, it is also gone. Regarding shooting in winter, where I live, it's generally fine with a 400 ISO during the day. It is generally not fine here in the winter, especially like in the dead days of, well, like late December through February, when it is literally, like the sun just doesn't exist. You will not see the sun for days at a time. You need a little more. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Next, at Bannockburn111 says, HH Virginia is the MacBaron I'll miss the most, followed by HH Bold Kentucky. Crazy to me that they discontinued these iconic blends. I agree. At Edward Breton, Y6Z says, I will miss MacBaron Virginia Flake and Virginia number 1. I think Virginia Flake and Latakia Flake are the ones for me. At Peter's Pipe says, I already miss Acadian Perique, and I'm really sad to see Old Dark Fired go too. A lot of people were mentioning Old Dark Fired, but the thing that prompted this whole question for me anyway was just the fact that I enjoyed Bold Kentucky so much when I did the revisited blend, the revisited video, and a lot of people were talking about Bold Kentucky as well. So that kind of, I think that cracks into the top 3 for me of Mac Baren blends that I'm worried about. Well, I can't worry about it because they're gone anyway, but the ones that I'm kind of upset about. Then we have some feedback on the Samuel Gawith Perfection review. That was a Patreon-only video, and Les Brady via Patreon says, oh, your driest rating description was desiccated corpse. Okay, so I was trying to remember, I have my moisture criteria, what would I call this? My moisture scale, I guess, for pipe blends. And so a lot of them are Goldilocks, if they're just the perfect moisture content out of the tin. If they're a little wetter than that, it's moist towelette. And then drowned rat is really wet, but then there was a category called Gawith, when Gawith was just soaking wet. And then on the other side of Goldilocks, we had Day Old Croissant, which was a little dry. And then I couldn't remember what the driest was because I almost never have those. And he was saying it's desiccated corpse, but then someone else told me it was fossilized mastodon. Fossilized mastodon. So now I can't remember. I mean, I'm sure I could look back on videos and figure this out, but it's desiccated corpse, fossilized mastodon? I'm not sure. El Torni says, is German, but your translation is correct. This time last year, I was ordering a ton of teas from Esterval's in Germany. $6 plugs of Salty Dogs, $7 tins of Capstan Blue, Solani, Dan Teas, HU, so many incredible blends available for less than half of what we pay in the US. It was the best, but all the tins came with I love my German pronunciation there. Sadly, with the current state of tariffs, the Esterval's gravy train has come to a halt. Oh well, thanks for this review, Bradley. Yeah, those are crazy prices. I'm glad you were able to take advantage of those while you could. And then finally, we have our good friend Jorg Westerhoff, who says, remember, it is an aged tin. So this is the Gawith Perfection. At least 10 years old, if I remember correctly, so any aromatic has mellowed, and so has the Latakia. A fresher tin would probably have more Latakia and a smidgen more vanilla. Then again, I've never tasted vanilla in other tins of Perfection. And yeah, that was kind of my point too, is that when I couldn't really taste any vanilla, and sometimes I could taste a smidge, I started looking into it to see if other people had the same experience, and most people were saying that they didn't notice any at all, which is interesting. So, interesting blend, faux show. If you haven't checked out that review, check it out on Patreon. It's good stuff. All right, gang, thanks so much. Please keep writing in. It really helps make the show go. But now it's time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support Stuff and Things on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. It helps basically with everything. It helps keep these videos coming. If there's anything you like on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon, your support on Patreon keeps those videos coming. Now, if you support at $5 a month on Patreon, you will gain access to an entire archive of cool videos. All the pipe stuff that I had to take off of YouTube, we are slowly putting back onto Patreon. We have dozens and dozens of the old pipe blend reviews in an archive on Patreon now. $5 gets you in. I post a new from the archive video every single week, and then we have any new pipe-focused stuff can only go on Patreon. It's exclusive there, but you also get the YouTube stuff early and ad-free. So your support on Patreon is super appreciated, and every week we like to shout out those who support Stuff and Things at $25 or more a month. People like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, Friendly Piper, The GreatGrol, Glenn, Just Glenn, David Severin, Nicholas James, Kyle Whitmore, Mr. Gibson, and Chris Caughey. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support Stuff and Things at $100 a month, people like Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. Gang, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things Patreon this week? Well, since we are going to be doing, well, first of all, you'll get the Homage X Starter Seahawks Heavyweight Satin Jacket. That video will be early and ad-free on Monday on Patreon. But for Thursday, so I've been posting our From the Archives pipe blend reviews on Thursdays. Every single Thursday you get one blend review from the archive, but I've been doing it in the order in which they were originally posted on YouTube. So before we were into 2015, 10 years ago, and around like October of 2015. But since the MacBaron HH Bold Kentucky Revisited video is going to be posting not this week, but next week on Patreon, I decided to pull the HH Bold Kentucky original review that was from December 18th, 2018. That is going to be the From the Archive video that posts this Thursday. So you'll be able to watch that on Thursday, see the original review, and then next week on Monday, you will see the revisited video for MacBaron HH Bold Kentucky. So hopefully that's okay with you guys, that I took it out of order a little bit. I'll go back to the normal order, but I think if I ever do revisited videos like that, it would be good to put the original review, if it's not already up, if it hasn't already come up in the From the Archives order, then I will post that the week prior to posting the revisited video, if that makes sense. All right, gang, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your good friend Bradley. I just thought I saw another fruit fly. They should be getting less common in here, hopefully, if I'm right about closing the window. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later, and hopefully I won't need skin grafts on my feet.